I'm going to be spending the next 100 days in hardcore Minecraft. The twist here is that I have never played hardcore Minecraft before in my life, so I don't know what to expect. My goal is to make an amazing farm, to never run out of food, get strong gear to protect myself, and construct a unique base to survive all of my days in, and not die. That's the important one to remember. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like on it and subscribe if you haven't already. Consider joining the Discord server. Links are all down in the description below. Without further ado, let's begin our adventure. I started my adventure spawning in the one biome I truly despise in this game, the jungle biome. Get me out of here. I absolutely hate the jungle. I don't know why it always likes to spawn me here. I finally made it out of the jungle biome and entered a forest where I began chopping my first tree. Once I collected some wood, I immediately constructed a crafting table where I made myself a wooden sword and a pickaxe. I then proceeded to dig out of the ground below me and collected some cobblestone to upgrade my tools and throw away the wooden tools that I barely used. After crafting a stone variant of all the necessary tools, I then proceeded to walk through the forest biome and crossed a small little river before entering a flatlands biome, which I would then claim as my home. Instead of waiting until the last possible minute, I collected some wool from a sheep I noticed over a hill and crafted myself a bed to sleep through the night, as I did not want to have to fight any mobs if I didn't have to. I then placed down a crafting table, constructed a furnace, and with the wood I had, I began to build a tiny little shack to survive my night in. The house wasn't perfect, but it's all I needed to survive a couple days in until I gathered enough resources to construct a better looking home. The sun had finally vanished over the hills and I instantly went to bed, successfully surviving my first day in hardcore Minecraft. On day 2, I gave myself the task of chopping down as much wood as I possibly could, as it will be necessary in crafting as well as expanding the house when the time finally came. I then wanted to explore the area while the sun was still up and proceeded to run through the flatlands until I stumbled across a village that was literally across from my house. After entering the village, I had noticed there was an awful lot of hay bales, which I robbed the villagers of. I then strolled through the village collecting as much resources as there was emeralds, nice, and then returned back home, where I began to clear out some grass and created some wooden fences so I can pin in 2 of each animal so I can have one day an endless supply of meats. I first gathered up some cows and lured them into their new temporary home outside my house. I then adventured further northeast and stumbled across a much larger village. I noticed a massive cave next to the village and spotted some dripstone which I could use to create a lava fuel source. I spent the rest of the remaining sunlight to collect carrots and beetroots from the village's farm and lucked out finding some potatoes inside of a chest. I took a closer look at that large cavern and spotted some zombies, a creeper, and decided I would come back when I was a little more protected to gather all the resources inside. I then proceeded to kick a villager out of their bed and went to sleep. On day 3, on the way home, I ran through the flatlands, going on an absolute murder spree, killing anything that moved, collecting a ton of food to keep my stomach happy. Utilizing the carrots I collected from the village, I lured in a group of pigs and confined them next to the cows so they would have some company. I then ventured into a small cave near my house in search of some iron and almost had this video come to an embarrassing end when this happened. Oh my god, yes. Oh no. Nope. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god, I was on half a heart. After narrowly escaping death and having this video come to a complete embarrassing end, I went back home and crafted myself a shield, as now I'll feel a little bit more comfortable having a little bit of protection on me. Protection is important. I then entered a new cave in desperate need of iron, and on the map I noticed and embedded all the entrances and collecting as much iron as I could. I repeated this process each time I discovered iron to prevent any surprises from sneaking up on me while I was collecting it. I threw some iron ore into the furnace and proceeded to collect more iron, coal, tracks, also fought a couple zombies, a skeleton, and finally was able to construct iron armor and a full set of tools. After a successful mining trip, I made my way back up to the surface to a dark rainy night and went to sleep safely in my bed. The following day, I used the cobblestone that I had to place an outline around where I would want to start my wheat farm. I envisioned a various stone wall design, planned to incorporate slabs, cobbled walls, lanterns to add some texture. Additionally, I began constructing a larger home around my little shack, as we would soon be gathering a significant amount of resources and I would need a larger home. Chopped down a considerable amount of wood and the sun began to set over the hills. With the amount of light I had left, I placed a few more blocks down on our new house and decided to continue on the next day. On day 6, I started planting oak saplings, ensuring we could grow our own trees to avoid crossing the river for wood every single time in the future. I then focused on completing the walls around the house with the wood that I had gathered the day before. While working though, I stumbled across a hole next to my house filled with coal, which led me to explore and discover a larger cavern beneath my home. I lit up the area with torches and also battled a skeleton and began mining cobblestone to extend our farm walls. When I returned back up to the surface, I realized it was nighttime, so I went to bed, ready to tackle more tasks in the following day. After waking up, I started expanding my wheat farm by adding some dirt to enlarge the land. I then laid some cobblestone to complete the walls for the farm, and I must say, I think it's starting to look really good. Next, I gathered a lot of dirt to fill in the interior around the farm for a better looking appearance. Just as I finished, rain began to pour, prompting me to quickly wrap up the day as it would be nighttime very soon. I crafted some iron buckets and headed down to the nearby river, filled both buckets up with water, and rushed back to my house where I made an unlimited water source. I returned inside to sleep to continue my work on day 8. When I woke up, with a water bucket in hand, I started by digging a hole and filled it up with water, preparing the land for my crops. Each water placement would grow crops in a 4-block radius, so I began planting all the seeds I had, and when I ran out, I ran around my house breaking grass and gathered more seeds for the farm. Next, I dug up some dirt beside my wheat farm and chopped down some trees I had planted a few days ago, as they were now obstructing my farming area. I filled in the space with dirt, but as the sun began to set behind the hills, I decided to head back home to avoid any monster attacks. So I quickly ran inside and went to bed, ready for the next day. On day 9, I resumed filling the area with dirt to continue shaping the layout for our potato farm. I built the cobblestone wall inspired by the one surrounding our wheat farm, but altered its dimensions as I didn't want it to look exactly like the wheat farm. I believe in avoiding identical designs in all of my builds, as it tends to make everything look bad, but that's just my opinion. Each of my farms will be positioned at different block heights to improve the look of the farm, since having them all on the same level just would not look visually appealing. As the sun began to set, I dug a hole and filled it up with water and planted our first few potatoes in their farm. The following day, I began to carve out the pathway that I envisioned, which would wind from the house through in between the farms and would eventually wrap back around to the front of the house. For now, I used my iron shovel to create a basic trail, with plans to enhance it later using various blocks for more of a natural look. I realized that the cows and the pig pens obstructed my path, so I constructed new fences and placed them on the other side of the house, successfully luring the cows and then the pigs to their new homes before dismantling their old ones. This allowed me to continue leveling the ground for my pathway. After making some progress, I turned to the cobblestone to outline the carrot farm on the opposite side of the wheat field, carefully placing a lone carrot next to a water source, which I hope will eventually flourish into hundreds more. On day 11, I decided to utilize the bone meal stored in my chest to accelerate the growth of the carrots, while also expanding the area so eventually we'll have unlimited carrots. I took down the small shack that had been situated within my larger home as it was no longer necessary. After crafting a bigger chest, I then transferred all my resources over to the new chest, removing everything that was in the center of my house. I then used oak planks to build the ceiling, ensuring that no surprises would ever catch me off guard during the night, and that no rain would pour on me and make me cold. I then placed some torches around to light up the area to make sure that nothing would then spawn and try and kill me. With more bone meal in hand, I rushed back to the carrot farm to further expand it, spreading the carrots out to maximize food supply. Curiously, I wanted to explore a new cave that I saw near my house, hoping to find some iron, but instead I stumbled across a skeleton that met its end at the hands of a creeper. Before leaving the cave though, I did gather some coal and hurried back home and rested for the night. On day 12, I smelted some iron I had gathered and journeyed across the flatlands to that large cave near the larger village that I visited earlier, aiming to gather some more resources that I possibly could find. I illuminated the area with torches, collecting resources and battling mobs until I noticed something glimmering in the distance. I gathered the diamonds and even discovered more around the cave, and also collected additional iron ore and some more coal. I filled up some iron buckets with some lava, gathered some dripstone that was in the area, and realized I had spent an entire day down in that cave. After traveling all the way back home, I started constructing a small blacksmith area on the side of my house for all my future smelting and tool making needs. The following day, with the iron that I gathered, I forged a couple cauldrons and constructed myself a lava source generator in my blacksmith area, ensuring a continuous supply of fuel for smelting. I seized the opportunity to tend to my wheat farm, expanding it even further, and then enjoyed watching the beautiful sunset over the hills. On day 15, I adventured out to the forest and chopped as many trees as I could, replanting the oak saplings that dropped, and began building a wooden checkered pattern for the floor of my house. I then shaved the logs and added some planks to give my floor some texture, and then I walked over to my wheat farm, expanding it even further and adventuring out into the wilderness, and stumbled across a brand new village. and then I stripped them of all their resources like bookshelves and lecterns. As the sun rose, I wandered through the village gathering additional resources before leaving. On my way home though, I picked up some sugarcane growing by the river and noticed a ruined nether portal, so I gathered the resources within the chest, and once I returned home, I planted more carrots and potatoes in the farms and further expanded the wheat farm before retiring for the day. On day 17, I decided to use some bone meal in our chest to accelerate the growth of the potato farm, as they were proving to be quite stubborn. Unlike the potatoes though, the carrots were just thriving, so I took the opportunity to expand their area and continue developing the layout for the rest of the farm. I also checked on the wheat crops, enhancing their growth as well, and with my shovel in hand, I started digging out some soil for the future beetroot seeds and used the dirt I gathered to complete the carrot farm before settling for a good night's rest. On day 18, I began to really dislike the look of my house and took the entire day taking down the blacksmith area, the lava source, and the entire house, leaving nothing left. The day after tearing down the entire house, I filled in the floor area with dirt to create a clean slate. I then started laying the foundations and increasing the size of the land for a new, larger house to be built upon. On day 20, I found myself short of stone for the new blacksmith area, so I ventured underground to gather as much as I could. After mining some cobblestone, I placed it into the furnace to smelt it back into stone and proceeded to lay down the floor and construct the walls for my brand new home. The following day, I started constructing the floor of our new home, creating new chests to store all of our resources in, and don't worry, we're gonna sort all of that eventually, don't worry. I then focused on raising the heights of our walls, but once I was depleted of wood, I ran back into the forest to gather as much logs as possible, replanting the saplings I had collected to expand our forest even further. On day 22, I completed the top layer of our first floor of our house using oak logs. I then ventured back into the forest to plant some saplings and gather additional wood for our house. As I made my way home, I decided to dig up some sand, ensuring that we would have windows ready when the time came. And with the leftover stone, I finished the flooring in the blacksmith area of the house and also built a ceiling for the first floor using oak planks, which will also serve as a floor for the second level. As soon as the sun rose, I crafted some oak stairs and constructed a staircase in the corner of our house, providing us easy access to the second level without the need of dirt blocks. I began laying the foundation for the upper level using oak logs and ventured back into the forest to gather more wood to complete the house, as a lot of wood is needed to complete it. But the next day I completed the walls on the second floor, leaving spaces for the windows. I then put the sand that I gathered a few days earlier into the furnace to smelt into glass, because I forgot before. I then spent the rest of the day outside expanding the wheat farm, as it was all ready for me to harvest it. On day 25, I pushed the boundaries of our wheat farm even further, ensuring we had endless supply of wheat for bread making. I also expanded our carrot farm and, at long last, managed to grow the potato farm. Seems they finally decided to cooperate with me. Next, I aimed to gather more cobblestone to enhance our farmland, so I ventured back underground. But as soon as I made my way down there, I was